Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elevating Your Life. Paula Vail here. Today, I am sharing two amazing guests. They are co-authors of a fantastic book. It is Reiki, a self-practice to live in peace with self and others. And before we even begin, I am going to tell you, in the almost 15 years as a Reiki practitioner, this book is on the top of my list. It is fantastic. We have with us today Elise Brenner PhD. She is an associate professor in the Department of Public Health at Simmons University in Boston and an instructor in the Department of Anthropology at Bridgewater State University in Massachusetts. She's a Reiki Master Practitioner and Teacher, Mindfulness Meditation Teacher, and is committed to wellness equity in all of the services she provides. She's also the owner of Brenner Reiki Healing in Newton, Massachusetts. We also have with us Nancy Spatz MD, Reiki Master Teacher, graduated from Boston University School of Medicine. Nancy's training continued at Beth Israel Hospital, Harvard Medical School, where she completed her psychiatric training in 1994. And I just want to say welcome. I am so grateful and honored to have both of you on the show today. And let's just jump in. I'll start with you, Elise. Is there a little more of your background you'd like to share with us, and perhaps what prompted you to co-author this amazing book with Nancy?
Thank you, Paula, and we are so grateful as well to be here, and thank you, listeners, for your kind attention. May the book, Reiki Is Self-Practice to Live in Peace with Self and Others, really speak to you. A little bit about me, and I'd like to keep it short and keep the spotlight on the us. So much of how Reiki has become dominant in the US is as a practitioner-directed practice, such that the self-directed practice sometimes gets a little bit overshadowed. And many of the places that I would like to be sharing Reiki practice and mindfulness are places where people are really suffering. For example, domestic abuse survivors, the elderly, people who are living with cancer or cancer survivors. And in some pockets of places, of course, they can't afford a fee to pay for a Reiki practitioner. So I began doing kind of a wellness equity initiative for social justice purposes so that Reiki practice is reachable and accessible and egalitarian. And in talking about this with Nancy, we thought that, hey, maybe there's another way. And it ended up being co-authoring a book. Reiki is self-practice to live in peace with self and others. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And I have to say, as a Reiki practitioner, the fact that you draw so much into the self-practice is beautiful, because as a practitioner, we can be so focused on, helping others and doing the Reiki for others and around us, we can kind of forget about ourselves. So it was beautiful. So,
may I just weigh in for a moment?
Yes.
Because this is my favorite theme, and it's the most important theme in Japanese Reiki practice. And that is really, in the end of things, it's a practice of non-separation. So what you practice for you and what your listeners practice for themselves just ends up pouring out. And to use your elevate your life, it elevates all life of all beings. So there's no me and you, there's really no separation. And that's the ultimate Reiki practice that we, to bring into our lives. So that completes that circle
Because yes, with that Reiki and our energy, others feel that. I love that because we are connected, aren't we, Elise? Oh, well, Nancy, tell us a little bit more about yourself and, how wonderful and what it was like for you to co-author this book.
Sure, thank you. So, yes, so through my training and through my life, I have seen a lot of people go through a lot of hardships. And it's interesting because when you're going through the hardship, it's very hard to be able to do anything like go to an appointment or even go to the grocery store. So I always, like Elise, wanted to give people an opportunity to be able to practice for themselves and learn so that they could then, feel more healed and feel whole. And Elise and I just really wanted to both get the word out to as many people as we possibly could so that there is equity and so that all people can, take the book and learn, whatever practice they want that can help them. And like Elise said, when you help yourself, you by nature help others. So we're just so excited because we really want people to feel better.
And your book is a gift. It is really a gift. And I would like to ask, because I'm sure there are listeners and viewers in our audience who really, really don't know Reiki and don't know what Reiki is. So tell us a bit about that, a breakdown of basically what you feel Reiki actually is.
So Nancy and I agreed that I would start off if that was one of the questions. So, of course, Reiki is a Japanese word. And in the time that the developer of the system of Reiki taught and lived, we would define Reiki as sacred energy or soul energy or spiritual energy. And in Japan, the idea of energy or ki is not at all esoteric. It's everyday life, right? People realize that your health is related to your spirit, to your wholeness. In the US, it can be a little more difficult to get that across. And so Reiki is a healing and meditation practice that comes from Japan and is now all over the world. It's just not in Antarctica, which of course would be a population density problem only. And it really spread around the world because it is so accessible. It has multiple components. It has a series of meditations, which can be named. It has the foundation of the system of Reiki, which are the precepts that we want to bring into our lives every day. We can ask about them later. It has this approach of hands-on healing of self, as well as hands-on healing of others. And when needed, that can be off the body. Yes. Is that like succinct enough? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it is, I've gotten to, over the years, when someone asks me about Reiki, it's almost like I want to say it's beyond words. I mean, it is so wonderful and so much in so many areas. Wow.
I don't know if Nancy wants to add on another way, your own way.
So basically what Reiki does, there are, like Elise said, so many different things that you can do in Reiki, like meditations, the precepts, hands-on, hands-off healing. But the premise that helps is that all these practices put your body into the parasympathetic nervous system mode, which is relax and decrease inflammation, decrease cortisol, and it sets up system for healing. And yeah, so that's really important to have that healing system. And in Reiki, what I found so exciting is that you can feel heal or whole even if you have a sore knee, a sore arm, or whatever other whatever else you're going through, because your whole it's the whole of your body, your mind, body, and the whole of it. So, sometimes in medicine, everyone looks at curing, but you don't necessarily have to be cured to be whole. And that concept is so helpful because let's face it, everyone has something that they're going through, right?
Yeah.
So if you can still feel good about yourself, and then it's really helpful. So yeah, that's about it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
It's never it. I thought, Nancy, that was so beautiful. Now I'm gonna like dialogue a little more on that. And I won't go into the science, but we can go into the science. Being an MD and a public health person, we can do more on the science too. But because really your everyday life is your practice. And like Nancy was saying, your everyday life not only has a headache and a sore shoulder, but it has, disturbing situations with people, disturbing situations with events and circumstances. And all of that disturbance and uncertainty, it's always going to happen. Like, we're not really even curing that. So what we're really doing is creating an inner terrain, TERRAIN, like an inner landscape where we create like options of what are the seeds that we want to really water within ourselves. And this brings in the precepts a bit. Do we want to water the seeds of anger and worry and fear and self-doubt? Or do we want to, and our true self, right, is the seeds that are in us already that we just need to rediscover and water, of gratefulness and compassion and honoring that which is.
Yeah.
It's complicated, right? And believe me, it's not easy. It's not like, boom, a magic wand. This is the lifelong practice. And every day we have to start over. Every day we have to start over because we'll make mistakes.
Yeah, and it's just every day and practice, enjoy, and something that you mentioned in your book. You make the analogy that a Reiki practice is like a palm tree. I thought that was so cool. So share what you mean by that.
Okay, I can answer that. Elise and I decided I would get that one too. So here we go. So basically, one of the basic or most important meditative techniques that we use is hara breathing. And that's when you take a refreshing breath in and you breathe into your body to the hara space, which we go into more detail, obviously, in the book, but it's an area in the body that's about 3 finger breaths below the navel. And when you breathe into that space, you feel grounded and solid. And then when you take a breath out, a longer breath out, that again, as I mentioned before, brings on the parasympathetic nervous system. So this breathing, which you can either do 15 minutes a day or throughout the day, helps you feel grounded. And that gets back to the analogy of a palm tree, because for example, if there's a storm and you are, looking at the palm tree, well, you look at the top of the palm tree and all the fronds are like blowing about and everything is chaotic and, disturbing, upsetting. But when you look at the bottom of the palm tree, it's solid and steady. And so the analogy of Reiki practice like a palm tree is if you use the different meditative techniques, one of which I just mentioned, Howard breathing, is you can help yourself be steady like the base of the palm tree.
I love it. I love it. Yes. Yes. And, I love how you describe in the book the hands-on effect of the body and what it does for us when we place our hands on our body. And you talking about the breathing, just that beautiful, those breaths and that breathing, that right there, that's healing for us. That really is a big piece of the benefit, isn't it? That breathing.
Yes, it is. And you can combine those two elements of the system of Reiki, hands-on body, and the hara, H-A-R-A, the hara breathing. So you can combine those two.
Yes, yes. Now, also in the book, you describe and compare Reiki to a snow globe. Who would like to tell us about that?
Nancy, do you want me to take this one?
But why don't you take that one, because I took the last one. So that one. Okay.
So I actually bring this snow globe with me when I go to outreach. Can you see it? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a scene of Boston. So I actually bring it with me, right? When I go to these like Harbor Health Elder Service Plan or, Beth Israel Deaconess, Center for Violence Prevention and Recovery, and it's leaking. Oh, I have to get a new one. What a good excuse. So when we shake up the snow globe, Paula and listeners, the snow swirls around in there and we think, wow, that's really pretty. But when the snow is swirling there, we cannot see the scene very clearly. But look what happens when the snow settles. So the snow particles settle down and down and down. I can see Faneuil Hall or the State House very clearly. And so now the analogy, when our minds are spiraling out, and it is the nature of the mind to have thoughts, and many of these thoughts really are because we're trying to protect ourselves because we love ourselves, right? It's not like a bad thing. But the mind is also called the organ of misery because it will ruin days, weeks, and months of our lives. So the Reiki practices in our book, the self-practices really are all about settling and training the mind to settle like the snow in the snow globe. And then we can see what is happening, the people, the circumstances, the events of our lives, and our own thoughts more clearly, instead of what we might jump to think they are based on our conditionings and our habitual reactivity.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And
So,
would
yeah.
you say with Reiki that trust is a powerful and important tool in your Reiki practice, that relaxing and trusting and allowing makes a great...
I know Nancy will probably want to say something, but I'll just start by saying many people, though, do find trust extremely challenging.
Mhm.
So we can have an intellectual understanding of trust, but it may take time
Yes.
to allow a direct experience of trust. And I think it's great for people and listeners to ask yourself, well, what am I actually trusting? Right? And
Mhm.
maybe reflect, am I trusting myself? Am I trusting the process? Am I trusting the teachings? Am I trusting Elise and Paula and Nancy?
Yes.
What is it that you yourself, as we want to become more familiar with ourselves with Reiki practice, that's one of the things, right?
Mhm.
Rediscover our true self, right? Our self, our soul self. So again, I think this is a really dicey, super juicy discussion that could go on and on, but I think that suffice for now.
Yeah.
And thank you for that amazing question, because it's not
You're
actually
so
in the
spot
book.
on. It takes time to have that trust. And that makes me think of your globe, just letting it settle and letting it be. Yeah, that's a
And
procedure.
I'll add that I think the thing that I really love about the book so much is because when you do these practices, you begin to trust yourself. Because, for example, we talk about the precepts, and the first two precepts are you do not live in anger, do not live in worry. And then the last three precepts are be grateful, be true to your way in being, and be compassionate to yourself and others. So when you learn these practices and you're able to, and it doesn't happen automatically, as Elise said, it's like a lifetime practice, but you can always start right away and it just helps. So when you start and you start to let go of the worry and you start to let go of the anger, then you can feel true to yourself. It just settles the mind and the body, and you're able to see clear, like with the snow and the snow globe. And
Yeah.
so I just feel like it can be life changing,
Yeah.
because as you know yourself more, you can really trust yourself more, make better decisions, or decisions that are helpful for you, and then of course for others.
Yes. That is so true. It's almost like, we're in that flow, and as we get calmer and calmer and do so much, it doesn't mean there's not going to be waves and rocks in the river. Those will still happen. It's just all a day to day, isn't it? But what a beautiful gift that we can all receive Reiki is, isn't it? And my
And
gosh,
it's really
your
a
book
gift
is,
you give yourself. And see, that's the thing that's so amazing about it, because it's something that you learn, and it's for that you can always have, and something that how you are true to your way in being, and be more compassionate to yourself and therefore others.
oh, I
So
love
that's what I feel is just really a gift.
yes, I love that. And it is compassionate to ourselves and others. It's so beautiful.
And
With
that, of course, is the fifth precept: be compassionate to all beings, including yourself. Yes.
yes, yes. With a few minutes left in the show, what last words would each of you like to leave with the audience today?
Well, I would like to ask Nancy and Paula if your audience might like to engage in a practice for the last minute.
Okay.
So is that
perfect.
something that we can invite?
Oh, I think it's a great idea. I think that's
Okay, so
awesome.
that only takes 1 minute. So to reiterate, I would like to add in about 30 seconds that in the book, we have a chapter about Reiki practice in social justice, and people might think, well, why is there a connection here? Well, like I was saying about the 5th precept, practice compassion to all beings, including yourself. Well, there's a lot of things in our society that are not, people aren't feeling a lot of compassion, whether it's racism or homophobia or ageism or ableism. And I think when we start to see that we're not separate from others, even though my suffering can't look the same. I mean, so I'm a white person, my suffering can't look the same as someone who is Black or brown. Nonetheless, my experience and their experience can impel us, once we settle the self, for compassionate, pure action to dismantle some systems of oppression.
Love it. Yes. Yes. It is so true.
And I just want to thank Paula and Elise for this opportunity to share our book and try to get the word out so that during this really unprecedented time that people can find some peace. And as our title, but you know, when you find peace, it's much easier to walk in peace with others. And so during these chaotic times, I hope that, you know, people will be able to find some peace. And thank you.
Thank you.
Paula, tell us about our time.
We have about 1 minute.
Okay, so first I want to thank our teachers. We share a teacher, and his name is Franz Stina, and I want to thank our teacher and our teachers' teachers, and also other teachers that are in our lives. I invite, Nancy and I are inviting you to just check in with your own body posture right now. Just allowing the body to be as it is in the moment. Allowing any bodily sensations the dignity of their presence without judgment. Similarly with the thoughts in our minds, noticing them with caring curiosity, allowing any thoughts also the dignity of their presence. And with that check-in, bring a gentle focus on the breath coming in and going out. The in-breath, the out-breath, and experiencing that in-breath through the nose, going through the torso all the way down to the lower belly, the hara. And when you're comfortable, allowing the out-breath to last just a little longer than the in-breath, without force or hard work, just allowing a gently lengthened out-breath. And again, and even after Paula and we say farewell for the moment, maybe you'll sit and practice this essential hara breathing practice.
Thank you so much, ladies. This has been so wonderful. Everyone, check out the book. It's fantastic. Have a great day, everyone.
We had the best time. Thank you.
Bye.